Hi everyone, welcome to this week's EBC video. We're back at Lake Marion exactly 1 year to the day after we started doing these videos, and there's going to be a reason why we're here in just a moment. But we're talking about Matthew 2, it's verses 1 through 12, and it's the story of the Magi that come from the east. Now, before we get to what the Bible actually says, just pause for a moment. Picture what you're thinking about with the Magi here, right? Maybe we can blame all our little nativity sets with these figurines, but some of us are picturing right away that sort of like all the Magi show up right there on Christmas and they're in the barn with all the animals too. That isn't actually what Matthew says. Or if you've been thinking about that, you think, okay, well that didn't happen. So now you start thinking really literally and like, who were those Magi? And where did they come from? And then you start losing yourself in all the details of that. I don't want to do those things today. What I want to do is just look at the story the way it's told in Matthew and then think about what it means for our faith journeys. All right, so in Matthew 2, the Magi come from the east and they do not head directly to Jesus. They head to Jerusalem to see King Herod. All right, and they ask Herod, where is this king of the Jews? We've seen a star, and that's what's brought us here. Now Herod, he decides he's going to ask all of the scribes first, where might this king of the Jews be? And we know he's up to no good. But the scribes know that the story is that the Messiah will be born in Bethlehem. So before the Magi ever got there, if Herod had bothered to ask his scribes, he'd have known where Jesus might be. But now that the Magi are there, Herod says, why don't you go and find the baby Jesus and you come back and tell me where he is so I can go and pay homage to him. And of course, we know the story is that he's up to no good. And eventually, in a dream, the Magi are told not to go back by the same road, and they leave by a different road, and they don't tell Herod where Jesus is. But that's the story. And then the Magi get to Bethlehem, and Matthew is again really specific here that they enter a house filled with joy. And they see Jesus and they see Mary and they offer their gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. Now, what does this story have to do with us in our everyday lives? I just want to picture what we've heard about different people in this Christmas story for a moment and why it is they get to the story. Mary gets to the story because the angel Gabriel tells her that she's going to give birth to Jesus. She has a joy and a certainty in what she's doing. The shepherds get to the stable because angels appear in the heavens and tell the shepherds that they will go and find Jesus in a stable, wrapped in swaddling clothes. The Magi, whoever they are, foreigners to the rest of the story, see a star. And who knows what they're going to discover? We're going to hear later in all of our looking at the New Testament stories about Jesus that we hear of people who are always going to Jesus because they have this certain faith that Jesus will heal them, that Jesus will save them, that Jesus will forgive sins. The Magi are on their way because there's a star, and let's see what's at the end of the star. It's a lot like our faith journey. Right? Sometimes it's because we're absolutely certain we know what's happening, we know what God wants us to do, and here we go. Sometimes it's just about discovering what's at the end of the star. And you know what? It doesn't always involve huge treks of distance. We've been a lot of places with the EBC. We're right back where we started. Your faith journey doesn't need to go physically anywhere in order to see what God has for you. So let's do another faith journey in 2024. Have a great week, everybody.